so we'll do that. That's good enough to tell if the queue pops.
Let's just watch it.
Hey guys, just wanted to talk today about some of the Final Fantasy.
Oh, this is a Xeno Reacts. Okay, so we'll watch the original video then. What was the video called? Was it just called Final Fantasy XIV Elitism? Yeah, it's this one. The 30-minute video, so we're not going to finish watching it.
Hey guys, just
Maybe.
wanted to talk today about some of the Final Fantasy XIV elitism and ableism that I've experienced at the higher levels of the raiding community.
Because I do have experience doing like Savage on Prague. So I'm interested to see how it's changed, because especially because like back when I was doing it, there was a lot of parsing, and I mean a lot, and not even just in like Savage, but I mean like you could be doing 24-man, and like not even the current 24-man. You could be doing, so say it was like Lost City of Mach, you could be doing Void Arc, and someone would be parsing and be like, yo, you, why is your DPS shit? And they're not even in the same alliance as you.
And to start off, I'll just explain like who I am. If you don't know who I am, I'm Wave, and I was a healer for a high-end static called Protocol Pals. We have a lot of experienced players, people who have played the game for multiple years, since A Realm Reborn, since Heaven's Ward. People like Rin Kargane, people like Saya. And this static was one of the worst experiences I've ever had in raiding. We spent, over the course of 3 weeks, we probably trialed or replaced over 10 people, many of which were doing quite well. I had one co-healer who
I need to figure out how like these like top end healers set their hotbars up, because this hotbar setup makes no sense to me. And I know high end healers, like they like to click the party members, and like so you focus target the boss, and then you click on your party members, and then they set up macros, but I don't know any of the fucking healing macros or anything like this. And I saw like a white mage, and he had like 4 buttons. That was it. Everything was macro, and he had like 4 buttons he pressed, and that was it. And besides like dodging and clicking the party members, I need to figure out how they do that. I used to macro a ton. It was usually like a macro or like a poll or like a, hey, here's a countdown, and it would say something in the chat. Or if I was doing a res, I would say something. Back when Astro first came out and you had like the big bubble shield and you put your hands up, right? I had a macro that said I can't hold it much longer. I thought it was funny. But then also for Scholar, back in the day, I macroed all of the fairy spells, the fairy healing spells, to Adlo and Sucker and stuff like that, because back in the day the fairy would heal like separately and wasn't as good. They really retuned the fairy like hardcore, and you don't need to do those macros anymore. But it would essentially buff my own healing by making sure that the fairy would always heal the target I was trying to heal. And it was essentially, especially when I cast like Adlo, you'd have the galvanized shield, you'd have the original heal from Adlo, and you'd have the fairy shield, and I would effectively heal 3 times. But it was made up for the fact that Adlo was weak. And then when we went into Stormblood, the fairy fell off hard. Like the scaling for its healing was absolutely atrocious. So Scholar was absolutely atrocious.
who I thought was doing very well.
It was worthless to play. You couldn't do content with Scholar because all of its potencies were like half of a white mage's, because the fairy is supposed to make up for the rest of it, and the fairy just wasn't.
Oh, maybe not very well. They were doing well. They were not holding us back, I don't think. But the logs were not up to par. The logs were inspected and the logs were not up to par, so that co-healer was replaced. And this is what I'm going to talk about today, is Final Fantasy XIV elitism, and how people in this game at the higher levels are way too focused on this on these logs and on this type of thing.
So what he's saying is that one healer just wasn't up to snuff and just couldn't heal enough, couldn't keep up with the damage to make DPS checks, and just wasn't healing actively healing enough. So like their macros were up, off. They weren't dodging well enough. They were too focused on the dodging and couldn't split their focus enough to dodge and heal, something like that. And they could tell by the logs, and they used the logs to be like, hey, you're not really making it up to snuff, and then replace them. Which, I mean, that's not new at all. That is not that is like, since MMOs have been a thing, that's been a thing. Like, wow, they would, you like, oh, hey, you've died twice in this raid, get out. That's how it was. And they're not even talking about parsing, they're talking about using the logs. So I mean, like, it's pretty much the same thing as parsing, just not as readily available.
And I want to talk about how difficult it is to play with these type of people when you yourself are trying to learn the game.
Okay, you're doing top-end content, you're not really learning the game, just saying. You're talking about playing content that is base game, Heaven's Word, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and Endwalker. So you're 4 DLCs deep, and the base game deep. You're not learning the game at this point. You're learning the fight, you're not learning the game.
When you yourself are not a player with 2 years, 3 years, 5 years of experience, have not been playing since Heaven's Ward, have not been playing since Realm Reborn, that's what I want to talk about. So, let's start off with my experience on P5. And
oh, he's not even talking about, like, Ultimate. He's talking about Savage. And he's at P5, so maybe not even Savage. Maybe he's just talking about the raid, just in general.
And I got into a bit of an argument because they kept spamming the GCD heal and losing all of their mana. So I kept telling them, like, hey, I told them like twice, hey, you can stop GCD healing here, or do it GCD heal here less.
What? Wait, what healer is he talking about?
Heal here less.
What healer is he healing with that he's running out of mana by using the global cooldown heal?
They kept spamming the GCD heal.
Let me go back. They're talking about a white mage?
And
the one I can think of.
My co-healer and I got into a bit of an argument because they kept spamming the GCD heal and losing all of their mana.
Yeah, he hasn't specified the class.
So I kept telling them, like, hey, I told them like twice, hey, you can stop GCD healing here, or do it GCD heal here less.
So if you're unsure what he's talking about, here, let me pull up Final Fantasy again real quick. Let's pop on White Mage, because this one makes the most sense. I don't have, okay, actually, I don't have enough off-level cooldowns on White Mage on this character. Sage. Okay, so Sage has like this heal right here, Diagnosis. If you can see, it has a cooldown when I right-click it, right? So it causes other things to go in cooldown, so that's the global cooldown. Now, if do I not have Resetmon yet? Don't. So if you look at, now I have this, right? I have this all healers have this like bar essentially, except for Astro. I don't think Astro has it. It's a resource bar. Usually it's 3 of them, and you can spend a resource to get a quick heal. Usually it doesn't cost any mana. It's free mana. It's usually a stronger heal. It sits on a cooldown and it costs a resource. As long as you can resource manage, and as long as you can cast those heals at good moments. I'm not wearing pants. I just realized. As long as you're casting spells at good moments and healing who you need to heal, and are able to weave in some like weave in some GCD heals as well, in order to resource between your MP and your actual resources, then you should be able to maintain your MP. That's what he's telling the guy. He's telling the guy, stop casting this spell, throw some more of these in here, and do it more as an oh shit heal. So oh shit heal means like your tank is going down, 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 down. And so on White Mage, an oh shit heal would be Benediction. Benediction is the oh shit heal. That's what I call it, at least. Like, that's your like, oh shit, my tank needs to be healed. Like, they're at 1 HP. Let me oh shit heal them. That's what Wave's talking about right there. So he's meaning like stay off on White Mage, it would be Cure 2. Like, you don't need to Cure 2 as much. Throw in some Fleetus Solace. Throw in some Tetragrammaton, something like that. You don't need to be glow cooldown and healing, because otherwise you're killing your MP. I don't know about Astro. I haven't played Astro above 60. Mac and cheese, thank you.
At my logs, they said no, you need to GCD heal more. And in this mechanic, this is
he's saying he needs a GCD heal
I will
more.
go and show you the logs.
Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
These are the logs from one of our polls.
Okay, so when he was saying logs, he did mean parsing. It was a Sage? What do you mean? How is Sage running out of MP? Sage has so many ways to keep MP
these
up.
Logs, I was not GCD healing during the downtime mechanic because I was focused on the mechanic to try and learn the mechanic, because it's P5, it's the farthest fight we've been, it's farthest phase we've been in the fight, and I'm trying my best to not cause us to wipe. So I am, maybe that is an issue. As a healer, I should be GCD healing, but instead
I'm just trying. I'm not being elitist. I'm trying to like understand what he's talking about. Is what I'm saying. So it is Sage. I don't know how Sage is running out of MP. If Sage is running out of MP, then the other guy is doing something else besides just global cooldown healing, or like there's something else he's not doing right. Because Sage has a couple of abilities that give you just a ton of MP back, and it's really easy to maintain your MP.
Instead of GCD healing, which causes me to stand still, have to try to slide cast, have to use focus, I just try to plan out my off globals and put them down, like the Earthly Star that hits the whole room. If I miss someone with my GCD heal, I have to spot heal them. Can I miss someone with Earthly Star? No, I can't. Macrocosmos, I can't miss anyone with Macrocosmos. Now, here's what was going on. My co-healer here was just spamming GCD heals.
Yeah, these are just GCD. He did do an off GCD right here. He did Holos right there. He did a 2 and a 3. He did so he spent 2 right here. Two of his resources right here. He gave everyone a 10% damage debuff. And then he essentially full healed someone right here. And then he started just AoE giving everybody shields.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? And I was doing like macro, star, celestial opposition. Had a Lady of Crowns here. Got lucky this pull. Sometimes you get those. And to get to the point, aside from all these like funny numbers and stuff.
So I don't know the mechanic that he's talking about, but so like right here it sounds like it's just a lot of AoE damage going out based on what I saw with that Sage's abilities and the fact that he's using the star mechanic. It sounds like there's a lot of damage going out all at once, and the Sage is trying to keep everybody up, and that's what he's doing. And he's already spent his resources, and so the Sage was out of resources and was trying to get them back up. Now I will say, maybe he was saving his Panheima, but when you give a lot of just like damage, and it's going out raid wide, that's what Sage has, an ability called Panheima. That's what that ability's for. I don't know if he was saving it for a later mechanic or something, but here, let me show you. Let me pull up Panheima real quick. Panheima. I love Panheima. That's the whole reason why I love Sage, is Panheima. So it erects a barrier around self. So I have normal Haima, so let me cast normal Haima myself, because it works the exact same way. So you guys can see it a little bit. So I cast Haima on myself. See, there's like a 5 right here. So it's 6 stacks. So I have a magic barrier around me that nullifies damage based on the heal I just received. And then every single time that shield breaks, it then heals me and applies a new shield. And then it heals me for at the end, if I don't break all my stacks, it heals me for however many stacks I have as a multiplier. So if you have a bunch of AoE just damage coming out over and over and over again, if I was dealing with a Sage, I would just tell him just Panheima there. Granted, I don't know the fight that he's talking about, and I don't know what part of the fight he's talking about. He hasn't applied that information. He's just showing the logs. But he's also using the logs as his
okay, to get to the point.
So he was talking about people keep on using the logs to like cause all these problems and have all these problems. And right here he's talking about how he was using the logs to tell the other healer he needs to do something else differently. So it was essentially, it's P5 Omega Protocol. Oh, maybe it is the ultimate. Is that what P5 is? This is Omega Protocol right here.
Point.
But yeah, he's telling someone, like, he started with, people keep on using these logs to support their elitism, and we shouldn't put as much stock in the logs. And then it instantly goes into him having an argument with another healer where he was using the logs. So I don't know.
It became a log investigation, and people started to pile on. And we got to this. We got to this part where I had said one thing, like I had told the healer, I told my co-healer, like, hey, you can stop GCD healing here. You can do less GCD heals because you're losing all your mana. I will show you a clip.
Bless you.
Because this is what was going on. This is
from Rin's so it is
stream.
ultimate.
It's not my stream.
Okay.
I was not recording this day. I was not streaming this day. So from Rin's stream, you'll see what was going on. If you look at Dice's mana. Now already Dice's mana was very low. And this was from issues with previous phases. This was.
They're watching a Dark Knight's perspective
to
watch what's going on with the Scholar, or the Astro.
No, Sage. For mechanics, and I did tell them on the second day, because I played with 3 different co-healers in this static, and on the second day that Dice joined us as co-healer, I said to Dice, hey, you can do less GCD shields if you want. We just might need to communicate a little bit more about mits and heals. And they were like, no, it's fine. I'll just do it for safety. I'm like, okay. For safety, that's good. You can do that. And that's, maybe they were not managing their mana correctly, or maybe it was just too much GCD shields, but this is what we're at. Okay, so Dice has 37,000 mana here. But the big kicker, the big issue, like this is okay. This is an okay amount of mana. It's not great, but for a downtime phase, this is an okay amount of mana. Because now what's going to happen is you should just keep getting up. See, 39,000?
You got about 2/3 of his mana full.
32,000.
Like a third of his mana.
This is what was driving me crazy. 32,000 mana. What? Watch it again. Look at the mana. 25,000. It keeps going down.
Well, yeah, he's casting spells.
We're not taking any damage. Nothing is happening. 25,000 mana. 2,500 mana. 1,200 mana.
Okay, I see the problem. He's casting when there's nothing going off. He needs to he has shields active on his on the other players, spamming more shields doesn't stack them.
The mana just keeps
He just let them go. At the same time, this guy Wave seems like he's getting a little aggro.
going down. Like 2,000 mana. And you want to know why? Okay, let's keep watching. So here we finally take a damage, but we still have shields. We have macro, we have horoscope, and we have neutral sect, and we still have shields on us. Okay? This machinist still has Eucrasian prognosis. So we're not in danger here. But look, the mana. Like, he keeps casting heals here. 1,300 mana. 1,500. 500. Now, my co-healer has drained all of their mana at a point in the fight where we have not taken a single instance of damage. Where we have not dropped from full HP. Ever. In the past, like, 15 seconds, we have not dropped from full HP, and my co-healer has drained all of their mana. 500 mana. 100 mana, and we still have barely dropped from full HP. Now this, like, applying shields here is good. I think this is a spot where it's good to apply shields here. Like, the other shields broke, you should reapply the shields. It helps protect from the stack damage, but the point is, like, that would be one GCD shield. That's not 4,000 mana.
I feel like Wave didn't explain it well in the very beginning, in the fact that he just said, you keep on spamming GCD, you keep on like, that's not the thing. No, he just keeps on spamming heals when no damage is going off.
Mana worth
That's
of
the
GCD
thing.
shielding. Like, the amount of mana that they just spent is insane. Any healer could look at this and tell you that this is not...
Oh, wait, what are you saying? Well, they're in like an ultimate, so you can even like AFK heal really, but like because you just keep moving. But the problem is that like it's a part where like a big damage is going to come up, but nothing is actually happening, and he just keeps spamming. He just keeps spamming. Well, it's shields, because he's like, oh, I got to make sure everybody's shields are still up. But the problem is that they don't stack, so he just keeps on reapplying the shield over and over and over again, and it's not doing anything. And he's just eating his own mana until he has nothing left during a time where there's no damage coming out at all.
Not right.
Which is like, okay, as a sage, sometimes, specifically as a sage, sometimes you want to play a healer differently than like a white mage. Like a white mage, you don't care if people are taking damage and if their health isn't max. You do not care about people's health being max as a white mage, because all you do is just pop regions on them, and then if someone actually goes below like half, especially in like this kind of fight, then you like tetragrammaton them or something like that. You give them a big heal and you pull them back up to max. But otherwise, you don't really care. Sage gets perks for their shields breaking. They can get their resource back, and they can get damage. They have Adder's Gall and Adder's Sting are abilities they have. Adder's Sting lets them cast a specific DPS skill, which is actually a really good skill, and you only get Adder's Sting when a shield breaks on someone else. So I can see why, as a sage, you kind of want to keep casting that shield, which is their global cooldown skill, because you can get more Adder's Sting, you can get more damage off. That's really only it's mainly useful in like when there's a group of enemies you have to hit too. Otherwise, just doses. But yeah, like at the end of there's no reason for him to spam it as much as he was.
The healer should not be doing this, and you want to know why they're doing this? And I didn't understand it at first either. Like, I had no idea what was going on. So I talked to multiple healers who I knew who actually had experience in this game, and they told me, yeah, that's active uptime. That's a funny number, active uptime, you know, elitism strat, like, to get your number as high as possible. And I'm like, why? Why do they want active uptime in this downtime phase? It's the most dumb thing I ever saw. And they're just like, yeah, some people are like that. So
if it's downtime, just pop some doses. You still get active uptime. Popping some doses and plop a dot on the boss. It takes the same. It's a quick cast if you pop a dot.
Tried to ask Dice here, my co-healer, to stop doing this, and basically, they got so angry that first of all, they were not in voice chat the entire time. I sent one message in the text chat. They got so angry they left the Discord, and they said either and they basically told the static leader that it's me or him who's gonna stay in the static. Well, you know, Dice has been a longtime friend of the static leader. Dice was originally a member, and they had cleared other stuff together. So I just joined the static 2 weeks ago, and so unfortunately the static leader had to message me and tell me like, yeah, we're gonna keep Dice and you're out. And that feels awful, but that's not even the biggest problem, because after this we try to have a discussion, and maybe I do not communicate in the correct way, because I
like that he said something about communicating right there, because I can feel him being really angry about this, and he's coming off very intense in this video, which makes me wonder if this is how he came off in the text, in the text chat, and this is how he was coming off, and he's being very aggressive. Maybe he was just heated in the moment because he said like, hey, you need to, he's stressed from all this raiding. He's saying, hey, you need, he sees the healer's having problems. He tries to get the healer like, hey, you need to do this instead. The healer says, no, fuck off, I'm gonna keep doing my thing. And then he just kind of gets a little mad about it, and then gets a little aggro, and that healer is just like, yo bro, like, I'm your friend, I came here to help, what are you, why is this guy coming aggro at me? I don't know him. Maybe that's how it came out, because I don't know Wave, I don't know Dice, I don't know anything going on right here, but that kind of would make sense on why they were just like, yo, you gotta go because you're causing more problems than you're helping with.
I start to feel a bit defensive, because I start to feel like I am the one being attacked. I am the
Also, the instant you start getting defensive, if you say like, oh, if you can look at yourself inward and you say, I feel like I'm getting defensive now, on the outside, more than likely you're actually being offensive. If you feel like you're getting attacked, more than likely during that exact same moment you're doing some attacking and you're just not seeing it. You're being really aggressive, you're being really angry, and you're just not noticing it because you feel like you're being attacked.
Because what, like, at a certain point in this, I start to feel like I am the one who has to defend myself, have to point out like, hey, I'm healing as much as I can here, I'm doing as many heals as I can, I am trying my best to do as many heals as I can almost do most of the healing in this phase. Like, I don't think my co-healer should just AFK and not heal, but I am trying my best. That's what I started to do in this conversation, in this communication. And this was not with Dice, because Dice was gone. I was trying to communicate. There was a certain point in this conversation when I wanted to just leave the voice chat. I wanted to leave the Discord server, and I wanted to never talk to these people again.
What I'm hearing from him as an outside perspective, especially as someone who mains healer. I've mained healer and I've mained tank. I rarely ever touched DPS. What I'm really hearing from him is he started getting a little defensive because, and the main problem I have with this is that he started talking about like, the logs are causing so many problems, guys, and then went on a breakdown of like the logs and why he's right. So right there, it's kind of hypocritical. I don't know. So far, I haven't liked this guy's argument at all. I feel like I might be playing devil's advocate. I don't know. I don't have all the information, but as for right now, I feel like the guy whose video it is actually in the wrong. And he hasn't had the self-awareness or the ability to go back and look at his own actions and see, I was being aggro. Because I bet you what happened here had nothing to do with the wipes, had nothing to do with the amount of healing. It was just, he came at he was stressed from how many times they were raiding. You could see on the logs that was like wipe 18. He was probably like, hey healer, I need you to stop doing this, blah 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 blah. The healer was just like, nah man, I'm good, da 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 da. And then they went back and forth for a second. Someone brought up the logs, it got a little more heated. The other healer was just like, bro, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. Well, the main thing is it's no healers. It's no DPS or tanks blaming healer. It's two healers going at each other. That's the thing. It's two healers just going at each other. But what I can tell is just from what I can see is that the Sage was just like, I don't want to deal with this. This guy's coming at me being like, do this better, this, and not trying to meet me halfway, not finding any middle ground. and he's being really aggressive towards me. This is my friend Static. I've raided with these guys multiple times. I've cleared tons of stuff. This guy's been here for 2 weeks, and I don't want to deal with him. And he went to his friend, who's the raid leader, and he's like, "Hey man, like I don't know what's going on. Like I don't want to deal with this. I'm out, or he's gone. If he's gone, I'll stay. But otherwise, I just don't want to be here and deal with this. I got other stuff I can do." That's what I'm hearing is going on. And then he left, and the raid leader came and was like, "Hey man, what's going on here? Let's talk this through." And he instantly got he got defensive because he's like, "Why are you taking the sage's side? I'm right. I know I'm right. 100% I'm right. I can look at the logs. I can show you that." And at this point, he's too far gone. Yeah, and at this point, he's too far gone that the reason why he was kicked out of the static didn't have anything to do with the logs, didn't have anything to do with how he was playing the game, how anyone was playing the game. None of that came into account here, from what I can tell, probably, and from my experience from like different things. How well anyone was playing did not come into account on why he left the static. It was just a breakdown of communication and anger. Communication broke down. Someone got angry. They were not being conducive to the environment. They weren't being helpful. So they just said, "You can go. We don't want that hate going on right now. Tensions are already going to be pretty high because we're trying to do really high end content. We're already on wipe like 35. The people who cleared this had like 300 wipes before they cleared. We got a while to go, man. And if you're getting angry now and can't handle this pressure, and you're getting really upset now, it's just going to get worse later. We don't want that." That's what that's my outside perspective from this. That's a perspective I have from this, from all the information I have so far, from this one person's information and story of it.
But I stayed because I wanted to try to make it work. I wanted to communicate. So I stayed and I was like, here's my healing rotation. Here's what I'm doing. Here's how I'm trying to heal this phase. And, you know, if Dice was there, my co-healer was there, we could try to communicate with each other. But, like, after 3 messages, I spoke to Dice for no more than, like, 3 messages over the past 2 days. We had to have some... Because Dice is unwilling to talk to me, so we had some mediated conversation with the raid lead. It was very weird.
That's not weird at all. That's how you should do it. Any kind of disagreement should be mediated by someone who's like a raid leader or something like that, because they can come at it from an outside perspective, and you're angry and you're coming at it with a large amount of emotion, and the third party can come at it from a very logical standpoint and try to find a half point. That's actually good. Dice saw the healer saw conflict brewing and immediately went to try and find a mediated resolution, which is the correct way.
But we got to a certain point in this discussion that I was having with Rin, where Rin's like, "No, you're straining your co-healer. You are forcing your co-healer to have 0 mana here. You are not healing enough. Your co-healer is doing like 2-3 GCDs in an Ixical, and they are not healing enough, and you are straining them." And I'm just sitting there.
Well, yeah, so that guy sounds very emotional, right? He's really straight just in this, just recalling the incident. He's being very emotional. So I bet you in that instant, he was extremely emotional. And he was like, "Look at these logs. Here's the logs. Go look at this." And the main guy's just like, "I see the logs. This is what I see." And this guy, Wave, was like, "Oh my god, you're not understanding. Oh my god." And like probably got really aggro about that. I'm going to subscribe and I'm going to like it anyways, because I'm reacting to him and I want to make sure he gets some appreciation from this. I'm pretty sure like he's taking this conversation as it was probably still about the logs and about the healing, why he was left behind, and isn't understanding that maybe it was because of how aggro you were talking to the raid leader and had nothing to do with the actual logs. And he read the logs and saw something, didn't really understand, but he didn't really care at the time because you were coming at him so aggro.
In the moment, I'm thinking to myself, like, 3 GCD heals, that is not the full mana pool, but, you know, it's Rin Karagane. Like, what can I say to the man, you know? In the moment, I'm stressed, so I just keep defending myself. I just keep saying, like, this is my healing rotation. This is what healing I am doing. You know, I can't bring myself to be like, hey, no, that 3 GCs is not the full mana pool. I should have said that. I should have. But like,
I don't know why 3 GCDs is not the full mana pool. He's even coming up here. And if you look at the logs, the dude does like 5 as well. And at the same time, like, there's other ways to restore your mana. And you can even see here on like the screen, like very, very tiny where my cursor is. That's a mana region that Wave has active right now. And I'm sure this Sage is going to have a mana region pretty soon. And Sage has an instant button that instantly restores like 8% of their max mana.
Like, these are players who have played for longer than I have. Maybe they know more than I do, but, you know, until I spoke with other healers and they were like, no, that's not right. That's when I gained the confidence to come out and say this. So, let's take a breath. Here's some points of the conversation. Some things that were said. There was a point where Rin says, like, I am straining my co-healer here because they are having to GCD heal so much that I am straining them. And honestly, no. I'm the one who feels strained here. Like, when I see my co-healer doing this, when I see my co-healer at 0 mana in this phase because they just spammed 7 GCD heals at a time when no healing was needed, I'm the one who feels strained. I'm the one who feels like I have to plan my healing so well that I can heal all of this without their mana. And that's, like, I'm the one who feels strained here.
Mana can come back nearly instantly.
Like, how can you tell me it's ever okay to sit here at 4,000 mana? Like, this is already an issue. And like I said, I tried.
Oh, like right here, how he just cut to this point right here. If you look at the other healer, now he's got half MP.
To communicate and have them use less GCD heals. So I'm not sure if they are not managing their Lucid Dreaming correctly, if they're not managing their Adder's Gall correctly, because Adder's Gall gives you mana when you play it. That's a very important Sage mechanic. I played Sage. Using your Adder's Gall is a very, very important Sage mechanic to give you your mana back, and if
not all Adder's Gall gives you your mana back, only 2 of the Adder's Gall abilities, and there's like 4 of them.
You're overcapping on that, then you're not going to have mana. If you're playing without Piety and you're playing at the highest level of the game. So I tried to communicate with the Sage and tell him, like, you can GCD heal less on the previous phases. We just need to have a little bit of communication for heals and for mids. And they were like, no, it's fine for safety. And so I'm like, okay, but that's fine. Like, you can safety heal and GCD heal everything and have 4,500 mana here. But the moment you get to this phase, you have to actually stop healing. Like, you cannot be spamming this for active uptime, or you're going to have 0 mana. Like,
okay, so the first, like, 2 heals this guy does were to restore that health. Like, the first 2 or 3 heals that guy did were to restore health. And then he cast it a couple more times.
Keeps going down. How can you ever tell me this is okay to watch this mana sit here and get drained while nothing is happening? How can anyone tell me that this is an okay thing to see? So, again, sorry if I'm shouting. You know, I'm a passionate person. I get like this. I'm not angry at anyone or.
See, right there, he became self-conscious. That he's being really, his emotions are turned to 11, which I'm sure his emotions have been 11, maybe even 12 at certain points on a 10 notch dial, and it probably wasn't just this video. Is probably like some of the other stuff he's been doing, some of the conversations.
I'm a bit frustrated actually, yeah, because this is not okay, and because I'm in this moment like being gaslit and because in this moment, in this conversation that I have after this poll.
Okay, thank you for saying that, because that's another thing I was thinking about. I was like, he's getting so emotional over this. Like, it's just a video game, bro. Walk outside, go for a walk, chill. Like, if you got this emotional in a job setting, like, if someone was like, so if you're in an actual like job, and someone is getting it's like someone keeps messing up and you're like, hey man, you need to do this way, blah blah, and they're like, oh no, I'm gonna do it this way, and then you start like yelling at them because no, you're doing it wrong, da 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 da. It's gonna devolve really quickly, and you know what, you're gonna get fired.
I feel like I'm the one to blame. Like I'm the one causing them to have 0 mana because that's what they keep telling me. They keep telling me that I am the one who is straining them, who is forcing them to have 0 mana. That I am not healing enough, and that all of my healing planning is not enough, and that, yes, I am not, if you look at the logs, yes, I do not cast GCD heals because I'm focused on the mechanic, and because it's hard for me to think.
At the same time, I don't know if there'd be actually being, we only have one side of the story. And so if you think about how people just tell stories in general, especially with how heightened his emotion are, he's probably explaining the story with at least a little bit of hyperbole. So you can assume that the people he's talking to are probably just, especially the Rin guy, is probably just trying to mediate it and be like, calm down, let's talk this through. No one's, I don't think anyone is probably blaming them as like healers, like, hey, you guys are fucking shitty. I'll cry by myself in my room. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily sound like they're actually being mean. It sounds like it was just an argument. It was just them disagreeing with each other, and this guy's emotions, he couldn't settle his emotions and talk logically. Is what I've got from it. But this is one side of the story. I haven't heard any other side of the story, so I don't know.
Think about doing GCD heals in the moment to slide cast them as an Astro who doesn't have mobility. So I have like one swift cast GCD heal in what I'm trying to do.
What about light speed?
And so,
huh?
Yes, I should be doing more. I should be. I'm not going to say I'm a perfect player. In this poll, actually, I messed up my entire healing rotation. I made a lot of mistakes. I messed up my healing rotation on this poll. You know?
So I'll say right here, he's going to be like, oh my god, the Sage has no MP. He can't, and everyone just took a bunch of damage. This amount of MP that he has is way higher, more than enough, far and away more MP than he even needs to full heal this and give everyone a bunch of shields. Plus the Sage probably has full Adder's Gall at this point, and is going to pop some cooldowns right here to give everyone some defense that doesn't have to do anything with MP at all.
It happens. Like, I'm not a perfect player, and I'm not the best healer in the game.
I mean, I'll say this. Probably the people he's arguing with are also wrong, because he's got logs to back him up, right? He's got some evidence, and you can see in the video that healer was overhealing. So yeah, he's right. At the same time, he's probably not as right as he's thinking he is.
I make mistakes. I'm still learning and trying to do my best, but it feels like I tried to point something out, and everyone started to tell me that I was wrong and that I was making mistakes. And they started to go into the logs and look at the logs and bring up like off-tangent points that did not have anything to do with the point. Like they looked at the logs and were like, oh, you only have this many casts of this ability. And I said,
so that's the uptime that he was talking about earlier, how like the other healer was actively giving some uptime, so that way when people go back and look at the logs, it shows that the other healer is doing way more heals than he is, so why would the other healer be wrong? That's what he was talking about earlier when he was talking to other healers, and when he was asking them, why would this Sage keep healing like this? And he says because it's active uptime, because when you go back and look at the parsing, the FF logs, it shows that the other healer was doing more and doing better overall, even if it was pointless heals.
Said, well, yeah, but because I had more cast ability, but then like my co-healer started to heal so much that I didn't need to use it anymore, so I just stopped using it. And I tried to tell them like they could stop healing in these spots, but they said it was fine for safety.
Yes, it doesn't matter if he's right or wrong, it's the emotion. Well, so the argument he's trying to make isn't even that he got kicked out of this static. He's trying to make like a documentary point on elitism and like how people act, and like using the logs and like kicking people out and stuff like that.
So I just like, okay, for full HP, why am I gonna cast this ability? So yeah, I only have so many casts of Celestial Opposition. I used to have like 7 casts of Celestial Opposition. Now I have 4. I
actually kind of wish I had watched the other guy's video, Xenos, because he's a really big Final Fantasy YouTuber. I wish I'd watched his to get his take on it
because my co-healer is just
as well.
healing everything, and when I tried to talk to them,
But at this point, I'm too far into this.
Safety. Like, if the mana is an issue, that's something that needs to be communicated.
But was the mana an issue?
What ends up
the instant you're right here, he's got no mana, but I'm sure he's got off global cooldowns that are gonna get his mana back right now.
happening is these guys like keep saying these things that, and I start to believe them. Like, they keep saying things that were not factually proven. Like, he says 3 GCDs is the full mana pool, and that is straining my co-healer. And first of all, as a Sage player, I know that 3 GCDs should not be straining the co-healer. Like, casting 3 GCDs, casting an Ixical, that's fine. Like, that's a normal.
Let's find out. I'm on Sage. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I mean, he's right. I mean, granted, I have some MP regen. Here, let's teleport to my friend's house in game. Because then I can do it on a Cap is in the game. Waiting for Duty Finder. State teleport. Because he's got some testing dummies outside. I still have no pants on. I need to put some pants on. There we go. Okay. So let's get some aggro. Alright. Now we'll do 1. This is exactly what that healer was doing. 2. 3. Yeah, nowhere near any amount of like a heal that would be a problem. Now here's the thing. So we got. Let's just completely empty my DPS pool, my MP pool. Right. You still got this. Instead I touch this, I just regained 8% of my 7% of my max MP. There you go. And then let's cast Phlegma a couple times. That'll really like lower my MP. Let's really try and like just lower my MP real quick. Actually, I know a better way to do this. Reset that striking dummy. Reset that striking dummy. Now let's swap to. Yeah, let's swap to this class, and then we'll swap to Sage, and then I'll attack instantly. There you go. I got no MP. Now see, I got 500 MP. Now it's Lucid Dreaming. I instantly have enough to full heal everybody real quick. I still have like this Physis, which is a regen. Let's cast that real quick. I can still DPS. Oh hey, guess what? I got Terracole. I'm at half MP already, and I've still been healing, and I've still been DPSing. This is why the guy complaining about his co-healer's mana pool doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I have 28 seconds on that. I got another Adderskull. By the way, I started with 1 Adderskull. I could have other ones. Let's full heal again real quick. This button's in the this button's in the wrong spot. Let's put that there. There. Hey, guess I'm still healing. Oh, I got Caracoli. Let's do this. Hey, what do you know? They gave me another 7% of my mana back. There's other ways to regen your MP. So there's this ability right here. I just got it back. It's on a 55 or on a how long is it? It's on a 6-second cooldown. It lasts 21 seconds. It gives you instant massive MP regen. There's also natural MP regen. And look, I have an ability right here, 7%. I'm already at max MP, and I haven't really stopped attacking or casting. And there's other off global cooldowns that I don't even have access to at this point. Yeah, that's why, like, so like the other guy hit 0 MP at that moment, I'm sure he's got full Adder's Gall and a Lucid Dreaming up at that moment in the guy's video, and he's about to pop it all and just get all his MP back. Because 7% max MP, he has 3 of those, which means if he casts 3 of them, all 3 of them back to back to back, he gets 21% of his max MP instantly, not including the normal MP regen, and he's still healing during that time, and then he can pop Lucid Dreaming. All those things combined means that he doesn't really worry about his MP.
Normal thing to do. Casting 8 GCD heals here in the logs to make it look like you are the one solo healing the mechanic is just not right. Because that's what ends up happening. It's because Dice casts all these GCD heals and then shows the logs to people and says, like, look at how many GCD heals I'm casting. I am doing everything.
At the same time, in that same mechanic, he wasn't doing any DPS, so maybe do some DPS in that time and you might look like you're doing some extra work as well.
This mechanic. But if you actually look at the numbers here, I was healing more than Dice for this pull. In these numbers, I was doing more healing, and you look at where the healing comes in. This is my healing.
He's playing a regen healer. He's going to naturally have more overall heals than the other guy, because the other guy's playing a shield healer. So the shield, effectively, the shield healer should have half the heals as the regen healer, kind of effectively, because the regen healer has bigger heals for one, and has the regen that can actively heal over time. So as a regen healer, as an Astro, you should have higher heals numbers than a Sage, because the shields aren't counted in the parse. It doesn't count mitigated damage as in the parse. So healer is going to heal. So that's a mechanic that's a thing. So healers obviously have DPS, otherwise they wouldn't be able to do anything on their own, right, for the rest of the game. So it's a problem that they've been trying to manage in the game for a long time, that healers will be kicked out of statics for not doing enough DPS. So this is really interesting to me hearing this, because where I'm coming from, this conversation would be happening back when I did statics, but not for the amount of healing coming out. They would be yelling at one of these healers for not doing enough damage.
Okay, I do like 1 GCD heal, 2 GCD
like, hey healer, why aren't you DPSing?
heal, and then I do a bunch of off globals. I don't GCD heal here because I'm doing all of these off globals because I've tried to plan my off globals to actually be useful. And like Dice is not doing any off globals except in Ixtical. You know, no mitigations. Like the Caracol here is for the raid wide beforehand.
Yeah, but Caracol lasts a while.
GCD heals here, and this is the healing that they put out, almost 10k. This is the healing that I am putting out here, 20k. Okay, so
like I said, a regen healer should double the amount of heal that a shield healer should do. Like I said, because the mitigation is not counted.
Like, I know, I'm getting into the small details. This was not what I entirely wanted to talk about. It was the small details of this argument, this drama. No. What I wanted to talk about was how it made me felt. Because at the end of it, like, I felt awful. You know?
I'm talking about raids. They will kick healers out of raids because the healer isn't doing enough damage. That's been a thing in Final Fantasy, because the healers need to help for DPS checks. Strictly for mostly, if not all, healing. Yeah, that's wrong. So it's counterintuitive, right? So when I played in Heavensward, for the longest time, I wasn't allowed in Savages, and I was like, why? I can heal like a truck. I'm playing Scholar, which is a shield healer, and specifically shield healers, one of the best mechanics that they have is that if they crit on a heal, it doubles the shield amount. It's an insane heal. But because I wasn't statted in a way, at back in this time, there was accuracy was a stat, and so you could miss attacking a normal enemy. it was next to impossible if it was a normal enemy, but in raid monsters had super high evasion, so you had to stat all of your extra stats that you have. So here, let me go into the end of the game so I can explain this a little better. They got rid of this stat now, by the way. Let me reset. Okay, so if I go into my gear, you'll see on the gear right here, there's these two holes, these two little circles. Stop. Right, you see there's these two circles? I can't hover my cursor over to it. I wish I could. There's these two circles. Those are materia. So you can slot the materia. So if you look at the skills, you can see all the offensive properties. You have critical hit, determination, and direct hit. Direct hit used to be accuracy. Now it's a secondary crit stat, but originally it was accuracy. That accuracy, it could tell you if you're going to hit. It would effectively work directly against an enemy's evasiveness stat. No. There's a crit. There's critical hit. It's a completely separate one. It says crit, and then there's accuracy. So there's critical, determination, and accuracy. So critical tells you how often you're going to hit. Determination affects is like a baseline stat booster, and then accuracy is if you're going to hit that, and it directly goes against an enemy's evasiveness. Normal enemies playing any other content besides super high-end rating. If you've ever played WoW, imagine Mythic Plus. Going into Mythic Plus, if you're going into Mythic, you would need to have accuracy statted. Otherwise, when you went to attack the enemy, you could miss. Heals cannot miss, and attacks to normal enemies cannot miss because of your level. But attacks against these really high-end enemies can miss. So as a healer, if you don't have every single one of these circles on screen, if you see on the armor, here if I click item comparison. Here you go. Now I can show up. So you see these little circles right here? If I don't have accuracy slotted into every single one of those circles, means that if me doing damage isn't going to work because I'm going to miss. And even though I'm a healer, I need to help towards the DPS because they need to meet DPS checks. And so it's my job not to just keep everyone up. It's my job to help do the damage. It's everyone's job to do the damage. It's the tank's job to make sure that everyone else doesn't get hit. It's the tank's job to make sure that they don't, partially the tank's job to make sure they don't die to help remove their. Yeah, so the circles, so there's an item called materia. So you can see all the stats, right? So this piece of armor has vitality, mind, determination, and spell speed. I could slot in more vitality. I could slot in more spell speed, more determination. I could slot in more crit if I wanted to. Also, the gear you have, you can, so this piece of gear has determination, spell speed. This piece of gear has crit, spell speed. As long as the mind stat, which is the overall healing stat, is the same or close to the same, as a shield healer, I would want to take the crit one because then I could crit heals more often. Now, back in the day, there was also the accuracy, so you'd want more accuracy. If you didn't meet a certain accuracy benchmark, they would say, no, you're out. So that's what I was saying. Like back in the day, that was a thing. That's where I come from. That's the commentary I was making. That original, like he's talking about this healing difference. Like, oh, you're not healing as much as I'm healing. Back when I was in static, you would look at all the healers and like, hey, you healer, you're not DPSing enough. Get out. That's the kind of part I came from. Recently, they changed. Accuracy. It wasn't recently. It was like 6 years ago at this point. They changed accuracy to direct hit, which acts as a secondary crit. So you have critical hit, which can give you crits, and then direct hit, you can crit direct hit, and you can just direct hit. So it's a secondary crit mechanic that gives you even more damage. And you can't, I believe you can't crit direct hit heal. You can only crit heal. It's neither here nor there. But yeah, they removed the accuracy mechanic, which is why, like in my day, it like, and they've been fighting that bit of this. So he's talking about in this static, oh, I heal more than you heal, blah blah blah, so I'm the better healer. And back in the day, the game devs had been fighting that same mentality, but in the other direction, on healers not DPSing enough. Even that's the point I was trying to make.
To have everyone tell me like I was the one straining my co-healer. I was the one not healing enough. I was the one who was messing up, and telling my co-healer to do fewer GC heals to save their mana. I was in the wrong there because they needed to do those GC heals because I was not healing
Also,
enough.
this
That's
doesn't
what they
really
kept
sound like
telling me.
elitism to me.
And I felt awful. I felt like, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the things that I am seeing, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, you know, I've only played this game a while. I'm new to this game. I started.
If you're actually doing Ultima prog, you are not new to the game. If you are able to get into these progs and you are actually doing prog, you are not new to this game. This is like 2% of the player base does this content. This like especially on content. Not a whole lot. You are cream of the crop if you are actually clearing this content. It is supposed to be the, oh hey, you've done literally everything else in the game and you want a massive challenge. Here's an ultimate prog. So he can't. I feel like Wave saying I'm new to this game doesn't hold. You are 4 DLCs deep of, and like, so it, like if you're playing WoW, like you could jump into it, right? Like you could jump like really far into the game as long as you leveled up, right? You have to go through all of the story. There's a ton of stuff you have to get through and you have to clear before you have to get to this point. He already has hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours of playtime into this game. At some point, you have to understand that you're not new to this game, and especially if you're doing Ultimate. That doing Ultimate is not a baseline to say, oh, I've cleared an Ultimate, I'm no longer new to the game. No, that is not. I have like, oh, I have like a year's worth of hour in the game, of playtime in the game. Yeah, like someone who isn't at current content is new to the game. Someone who's doing not only current content but the highest end of content is not new.
Playing this game July of last year, and
you've been playing the game for almost a full year. You're not new.
I started raiding. You know, it took me half a year to do MSQ. I enjoyed MSQ.
That's what I'm talking about. It took him half a year to get through the main game. At the end of that, you're not considered new.
I loved MSQ, but then I started raiding in Endwalker for Asphodelos, and then Dragon Song, and then Abyssos, and now here at top.
So he's cleared other ultimates. He cleared the last 2 or 3 ultimates. So that means he's in the top like 4% of players in the entire game. I don't know what percentage of players actually. I don't know. Let me see if I can find that. What percent of Final Fantasy 14 players clear? Why am I in caps? Whatever. Clear ultimates. Ultimate content. Players that have cleared ultimate at all could range from as few as 8.9% to as much. So at all, any ultimate at all. And you can go back and clear the old ones. So he's in the top 10% of all players in the entire game. Oh, wait. Only 1% of players do ultimate. 2021. So he's in the top 1% of the entire game. You cannot call yourself new. I am sorry, bro.
I haven't done the older content. I don't have the experience on it. I'm basically...
What do you mean you haven't done the older content? You just said you've cleared the last 3 ultimates.
A new, fresh raider to this expansion.
Ultimates have it. Ultimates came out in, or they came out in Stormblood, but
And it just feels awful to hear all these experienced players. Like Rin Karagane is the guy I watched on the Uwu video. You know the Uwu guide? He's on that video. The Tess and Twin Tails guide.
See, I don't even know what he's talking
It feels
about.
awful to hear these people like tell me that I'm wrong, that I'm the one not doing enough. When I feel like, I look at these logs, I see what is happening. I'm like, wait, no, but look at what is happening here, and then it's like, wait, am I in the wrong here? Is there something I don't know here? Like, should the healer really be draining their mana at this point in the fight? Like, why should my co-healer have 0 mana here?
I will say, so his point is correct. The Sage should not be healing right here. I will back him up. His healer can take a second, maybe do something else, maybe do some DPS. I'm not even sure if the boss is up to be able to do DPS. The healer can do something else and be ready, position themselves, do something else to make sure they're set up for the next wave. 100%, that's right. But at the end of the day, I don't think that matters.
When they could be regenerating the mana, they could have like 5,000 mana here because the mana ticks up. They start to regenerate it during the downtime. They could have half their mana.
Yeah, there's no
I have
DPS
6,000 mana
available.
myself. Like, but here they keep draining it and they have 0 mana. Like, is that, And I started to think like, hey, maybe I am wrong here. And then, at the end of it, I got a message that like the communication just wasn't there, and because Dice didn't want to heal with me, and it was either Dice or me, and Dice was friends, and I'm out of the group, and that was really unfortunate, and it felt really bad. But
I think, okay, so we're gonna there's still more of this video. There's still 10 more minutes, but I think we're gonna end right there because I think he just hit the nail on the head. It was communication that broke down. It had nothing to do with the heals. The heals were the catalyst that started all of this. But I feel like it was communication. I want to see Xenos' reaction to this now.